Good evening, my colleagues. Committee of the Whole is called to order. My colleagues, something I don't want to report, but I have to report it out. The number one, we still have some business in Chapter 11, Chapter 12, and Chapter 13. But I don't believe it's something that will last all night. They're pretty simple. And I'm going to ask that if there are no objections, we will proceed to entertain Chapter 11, Chapter 12, and Chapter 13. Are there any objections to that? There being none, so ordered. Senator Nelson, you have the floor on. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, this is just a correction. When we were inserting this amendment, it was unclear about the JSSA amendment to the amendment. And so I am looking to withdraw the previous amendment that had another date other than June 30, 2023. So I make a motion to withdraw that amendment so I can proffer this new amendment.
Are there any objection to the withdrawal of her amendment, Senator Nelson? There being none, so ordered. Senator Nelson, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, this is the amendment that should have been added, but we got caught in the weeds. However, just a change is in is the second to the last line where it says be effective in June 30, 2023.
Does any of my colleagues would like to speak to that amendment? Senator, Madam Speaker?
Yeah, if you could just explain why it has to be set back another year or almost a year from when the study's done.
This was the amendment that Senator San Augustine proffered, and there was an issue where it was unclear whether that amendment to the amendment was gavelled in or not. So if you want to challenge the amendment to the amendment, you're more than welcome to do so.
I think, Madam Speaker, I'll go to real short explanation. What happened was originally the amendment identified 30 days after September 2022, and I was very clear that number one of the impacts we have to be concerned is that when you implement the pay raise, we already had passed the budget. It would not be feasible to implement something that you don't have funding. So what I propose that it be moved to June 2023. So when the study is completed, then we can, the legislature has to either approve or disapprove, or if they ignore it, then it goes into effect on June 2023. And the reason for that, then it can be put into the budget that we will be discussing for 2023. And it will just have a very easy flow, and it's part of the budget. That's the only reason why. Otherwise, if you try to implement it 30 days after 2022, I don't know whether you get the funding, and it'll be wrong to give the impression that we had funding when it didn't exist.
All right. Okay, but yeah. So I was just thinking, the study will be done in September 2022. The new fiscal year will begin in October 2023. So there will be another budget that can accommodate that.
No, it'll be October 2022.
I mean, sorry, October
Correct.
2022, yeah, to cover the June 2023 period as well. But we can't do it that early, from October?
Our budget would have already passed in August, and funding would not have been identified. There'll be the impression that we got funding and we don't.
All right. All right, I'm just sad to see this extended because, yeah, I'm sure they're going to get their hopes up, right? So 1 year for the study is, and then another semester, at least 2 semesters to get to the pay increase for the teachers. Okay, I understand the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else any of my colleagues like to speak to the amendment? There being none, Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add that this provides a funding source to ensure that the study is done. It provides a no later than date to ensure that the study is done. And then it provides an effective date to ensure that what is resulted from that study is put into law so that the teachers can get what they deserve. Colleagues, I humbly ask your support.
Thank you. Are there any objection to this amendment? There being none, amendment passes. My colleagues, this will now close. Do we have anything for 11? We have nothing else for Chapter 11. We will now move to Chapter 12. And if I'm correct, Senator Parrish, you have an amendment, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this amendment adds another item.
Excuse me, stand by. On 12? Okay, we'll take a quick recess because I think I moved too fast for Senator Parrish. We have one more amendment. Please, a quick recess, please. Committee of the Whole is called back to order. I apologize, my colleagues. We do have one more amendment. Senator Rigel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment is we are still on Chapter 11, correct? So this amendment's to Chapter 11, line 19, page 126. It's SB 55J SSA L19 P126. On Section 20, it adds it adds a Section 20, continuing appropriation authorization, notwithstanding any other provision of law, the unexpended balance of funds appropriated in subsections D, G, U, AA, and CC of Chapter 5, Chapter 6, and Chapter 10 in fiscal year 2021 and prior shall not lapse and shall continue to be available until fully expended. This is just a continuing appropriation measure to make sure that unexpended lapses in these areas are able to be used. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
My colleagues, I don't think we need a closing, but does anyone like to speak to this? If not, are there any objection? I see none. Amendment passes. Now we will move to Chapter 12. I apologize, Senator Parrish. You now do have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this amendment would add a new line to Chapter 12, Section 25, restrictions on hiring of unclassified employees. This was upon request from the Director, Dave Della Sola, to allow them to hire temporary workers, namely customer service representatives at the Guam Department of Labor. The reason being is that their H-2B visa program is expanding exponentially, and they need the additional help to commensurate with the additional workload. So they want the ability to staff up and down in response to workloads through the use of temporary workers versus the use of permanent classified employees.
Does any of my colleagues like to speak to this? I see none. I don't think you need a closing, right, Senator Parrish? You pretty much. Are there any objection? There being none, so ordered. That's amendment is passed. Now we will move to any other amendments anywhere? Nothing else, right? Okay. Of which one? All right. What we'll do is we'll get a quick recess, and the last amendment, we'll circulate the hard copy. Ed, if we can get a hard copy made, please. Thank you. Committee of the Whole is called back to order. We are now on Chapter 13. Senator Tello, you have a new amendment, line 3, page 153, as far as I can see and recognize. All right?
Thank you,
Ma'am.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I proffered an amendment earlier into this chapter, and going through the realignment law of Guam Code Annotated. To simplify it, Mr. Chair, and your concern that you had brought up during that discussion, I've simply put an amendment that says this: allocation of American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 funds report. Notwithstanding any provisions of law or rule or regulation, the Director of the Bureau of Budget and Management Research and the Director of Administration shall submit a written report to the Speaker of Legislature in Guam no later than 5 days after the end of each month in fiscal year 2022, which shall summarize the allocation of funds made available to the Governor of Guam through the American Rescue Plan Act. Failure to submit such report after the end of each month shall result in a fine of $250 per missed deadline for each director identified herein, which shall be deposited into the rainy day fund established pursuant to Article 9, Chapter 22, Title 5, Guam Code Annotated. It's very simple, Mr. Chair. We've been asking on what funds are being appropriated to what agencies. This would have been very helpful for us before we started the budget. Then we would have known what areas that might fall short. It doesn't stop us, though, Mr. Chair, in the future to reappropriate or unappropriate certain funds to some other areas. But we have to know that information first. And we can't be, relying upon KUAM or other radio stations to tell us what that is. We should know firsthand. If the collaboration this administration wants with this body, then this is the way to do it. And I don't see any reason anyone should be fined if they do follow this guideline. Actually, Mr. Chair, I had the amendment say 24 hours, within 24 hours, but talking to another colleague of mine, we settled to 5 days. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tello. Tarigui. Does anyone like to speak to this amendment? Senator Clint.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question for the sponsor. The sponsor sort of touched upon it as far as originally wanting 24 hours and then settling upon 5 days, but I'm curious as to the methodology or the reasoning behind selecting the number 5 for the number of days.
Well,
Senator Tello, do you yield to that question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think 5 days is enough time once they've made that allocation to that department and agency. I mean, I think we could even rely on BBMR to provide us that information. And it is no later than 5 days after the end of each month. 5 days after the end of each month. So usually there are reports given out every month. We're just allowing that additional 5 days.
Senator Clint, did that? You have another question?
Yes.
You shout for it.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'd actually like to proffer an amendment to the amendment to change it from 5 days to just insert the word working, make it 5 working days, only because sometimes the month ends on a Friday, and that Friday happens to be a holiday, so really that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those are 3 days that are non-working days, and I want to make sure that they have the ample time to be able to produce accurate reports. So I'd like to make an amendment. I have a motion to make an amendment to just include the word working days, working before the word days.
All right. My colleagues, there's an amendment to the amendment. Anybody would like to speak to that? Other than that, I think that was good enough for a closing, right, Senator Clint? That's good. Are there any objections to this amendment to 5 working days? There being none, motion passes. Senator Clint, you still have the floor. Do you have anything else? Nothing else. And does anyone else like to speak? Senator Torres, please.
I just have a question to OFB. What would be the implication of having such reports? I mean, we're requiring a monthly report within 5 working days after the end of each month, and if they don't submit this report by BBMR or DOA, there is a $250 fine every time. So I'm just trying to understand the necessity and how this in fact will affect the allocation of funds or the deappropriation of funds. I mean, what is the net effect of demanding and imposing fines for failure to submit a report such as this?
Yes, Senator. There's no real effect in terms of the appropriation in the budget bill. All it does is just account for whatever expenditures are being made out of the ARP money in terms of operation and how those expenditures basically will subsidize basically the appropriation in the bill. So once the budget law is passed, these levels are already set for the departments and agencies. They're going to operate regardless of what the ARP money or any ARP money is given to them. So I believe the intent of this amendment is just to account for ARP expenditures, I believe, within the departments and agencies.
So it really is the effect of an audit, more or less. An audit and a way for the legislator to ascertain whether they agree or not agree with the way things are done, with the way it's appropriated, with the way it's funded. But it doesn't necessarily affect what we're doing in terms of how much money we give or how much money we may decide later on. I mean, it's just a gauge then, more or less. It's just a demand for information, right?
That's correct, Senator.
All right, thank you. I just want to understand if it really had any valid implications on the budget process, and it isn't. It's just reporting.
Thank you, Senator Torres. Does any of my colleagues would like to speak to this amendment? There being none, are there an objection to this amendment? There being none, you have one objection? All in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion passes. My colleagues, take a quick recess to make sure we have nothing else sitting in the system, all right? My colleagues, the Committee of the Whole is called back to order. Senator Amanda, you've been recognized, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move that we rise from the Committee of the Whole with substitute bill number 55-36 COR as substituted and further amended in the Committee of the Whole with the recommendation to be placed in the third reading file.
My colleagues, there's a motion to rise from the Committee of the Whole. Are there any objections to that motion? Motion passes. My colleagues, we are now in recess.
We are back in session. Senator San Augustine, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to report back to the body that Bill 55-36 as substituted by the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing was deliberated and amended in the Committee of the Whole and with the recommendation to be placed in the third reading file.
And to do pass. On the motion to place the bill as substituted by the committee and further amended in the Committee of the Whole on the third reading file, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. Senator Nelson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to make a motion that we go back to motions,
There's a motion to return to motions.
notwithstanding the rules.
Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. We're now in motion. Senator Nelson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to make a motion to add resolution number 130-36 COR into the session agenda.
On
For
that, can you read the title, please?
Yes, 130-36 COR, resolution number 130-36 COR relative to expressing the support of Imenay Trantay Sais, Nalis Latour Guahan for the passage of H.R. 4406, supporting Medicaid in the U.S. Territories Act of 2021, introduced by the Honorable Representative Darren Soto Sablan and the Honorable Representative Gus Bilirakis, which seeks to amend Titles 11 and Titles 19 of the Social Security Act to provide increased financial support to the territories under the Medicaid program, provide 5 years of Medicaid funding for Puerto Rico, and 8 years of funding for other U.S. territories and for other purposes.
Colleagues, the clerks have loaded this resolution onto the motions drive, if you would like to review it. On that motion to place resolution number 130-36 on the second reading, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. We're still in motions. We can finish the motions and we'll go to second reading.
We are still in motions. Speaker Terlahi, you are recognized.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to place vetoed bill number 164-36, which is an act relative to amending the Recovery, Income Support, and Empowerment, or the RISE Act of 2020, to remove impediments to the issuance of payments to eligible Guam residents during the state of public health emergency due to the coronavirus disease pandemic into the voting file, and I'd like to briefly discuss it.
On the motion to place vetoed Bill 164-36 into the voting file, are there any objections?
Oh, I'd like to discuss it,
To
ma'am.
discuss. My apologies. Please proceed, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I'll be brief. So Bill number 164-36 was passed with an overwhelming majority of the body earlier this month because the legislature wanted to remove any perceived impediments to getting direct assistance in the form of RISE payments into the people's hands as quickly as possible. We are all aware that the governor's All RISE program, which is separate from the original RISE program in Public Law 36-136, will begin receiving applicants tomorrow, and it will be a first-come, first-served process because the administration has put a cap on their All RISE program of $30 million. This $30 million cap and the first-come, first-served process has been causing anxiety in our community because there are many in great need of assistance at this time, and there is concern that they will be denied when the funding runs out. I was in fact sent a picture of the Department of Revenue and Taxation tonight, and there are already cars lining up to turn in their applications. We passed Bill 164-36 to remove the $30 million cap originally placed on the RISE program to ensure that every eligible applicant will get paid, and to give the Department of Revenue and Taxation the discretion to make the process as simple and efficient as possible. The bill also extends the expiration date for the delivery of payments from December 31, 2021 to December 31, 2023 to ensure additional time for all applicants to receive their payments. Overriding the veto of Bill 164 will not interfere with the rollout of the Governor's All Rights program tomorrow. Instead, it will provide a mechanism for those who are turned away and not paid due to the cap or are not covered through the Governor's All Rights program, which excludes those whose income is non-active, who were not required to file a 1040 or did not file a 1040 for those reasons. And this includes many of our retirees. By overriding the veto of Bill 164, we will give the administration one more opportunity to make RISE payments to everyone who is eligible. In its August 31, 2021, it is August 31 now, and RISE payments have still not been made despite the RISE Act's passage and lapse into law in December of 2020. And this administration has had access to $600 million since May 2021. The 35th Guam Legislature had the foresight to provide a mechanism for swift relief payments once funds had been identified back in December, and this override will again provide an opportunity for the administration to provide relief payments to all who were impacted, not just those who will be applying tomorrow. Of course, we know that the $30 million cap on the Governor's All Rights program can be lifted by executive order by the Governor. But in the event that this does not happen, I ask my colleagues for their support on this override and ask that we unite to ensure that everyone who is eligible will receive the RISE payments they are entitled to. So I ask for your support to override the veto of Bill 164. Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Anyone on the motion to add vetoed Bill 164-36 into the voting file? On the motion, are there any objections? No objection. Motion passes. Senator Moylan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Notwithstanding the objections of the Governor, I move to act on veto bill number 7536, which is an act to amend section 2C, 2D1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and repeal section 2D2 of Public Law 35136, and to amend the section 4, 5, 6, and 8 to Exhibit A of the Public Law 35136. It's relative to amending the provisions of the Recovery Income Support of the Empowerment RISE Act of 2020 to include increasing the amount of payment and removing certain eligibility requirements, amending the authority authorized budget, and extending the deadline for the payout by 6 months. Madam Speaker, and I move to the voting bill to be voted on, and just a brief discussion. Madam Speaker.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just short and sweet. Madam Speaker, while I understand that overriding Bill 75 may not do much in terms of forcing the Governor to increase payout of the RISE Act or even lift the cap on the program, but what it will do is simply send a strong statement, a statement to the executive branch that the legislature branch is a co-equal branch of government and want to work with the Governor in addressing economic recovery. It also sends out another strong message and that message is no qualified resident who applies in reasonable timeline should be refused the proceeds of the RISE Act. So please raise the cap and let's work together, Governor. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I wish to move bills 7536, veto bill, into the voting file.
Thank you, Senator Moylan. Anyone on the motion to move vetoed bill 7536 into the voting file? On the motion, are there any objections? No objections, motion passes. We are still in motions. Okay.
If there are no other motions, we will proceed to the second reading file. Senator Nelson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to make a motion to move resolution number 130-36 COR into the third reading file to discuss.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Resolution number 130-36 COR is relative to expressing the support of Iminay Trentay Sais na Legislature Guahan for the passage of H.R. 4406, the Supporting Medicaid in the U.S. Territories Act of 2021, introduced by the Honorable Representative Darren Soto Sablan and the Honorable Representative Gus Villarakis, which seeks to amend Titles 11 and 19 of the Social Security Act to provide increased financial support to the territories under the Medicaid program, provide 5 years of Medicaid funding for Puerto Rico, and 8 years of funding for other U.S. territories and other purposes. Just as a background, before the passage of Affordable Care Act, Public Law 116-20, which was the supplemental appropriations for fiscal year ending September 20, 2019, and Public Law 116-94, which further consolidated Act of 2020, the Guam Medicaid program operated with an annual budget ceiling allotment based on Section 1108 of the Social Security Act. Although the funding allotment increased yearly based on the Medical Consumers Price Index, it was insufficient to support the healthcare needs of Guam's Medicaid population. Public Law 116-94 temporarily increased the Medicaid federal medical assistance percentage, which is also known as the FMAP, to 83%, and increased the Medicaid cap for 2 consecutive years, ending on September 30, 2021, for the territories except Puerto Rico. The Guam Medicaid expenditures for the past several years have continued to grow due to increasing medical costs brought about by new drugs, advancing medical technology or new treatment modalities, and new health standards and mandates, not to mention the increase of healthcare utilization services. Additionally, the number of Guam Medicaid enrollees has also grown for the past several years, which will continue to increase with the inclusion of COFAS and the recent increase on the Guam Medicaid income guideline to expand coverage to the uninsured population. Extending the increase on Medicaid FMAP and CAP amounts for the territories will provide greater access to health care. Providers will also continue to accept Medicaid patients knowing there is funding to compensate for their services. And so, my colleagues, we've seen that as a result of the pandemic, we originally received 55% of the FMAP, and as a result of the pandemic, they increased it to 83%. They have also released the caps. So now we are letting Congress know that we are listening, and we hope that they continue to move forward with supplying Guam with a continued 83% on the FMAP. Thank you. I humbly ask your support.
On the motion to place Resolution 130-36, is there any senator who would like to be recognized on the resolution? On the resolution? If not, then Senator Nelson, you may close.
I'd like to thank my co-sponsors on this resolution And, we see a great advantage of Congress giving us the ability to increase and keep the FMAP percentage. And we see it also transitioning into our healthcare system so that we can also provide payments to the physicians and to the doctors who provide the care for our citizens. So, Madam Speaker, without any resolution, I'd like to, or without any hesitancy, I'd like to make a motion that we move it to the third reading voting file.
On the motion to place Resolution 130-36 to the third reading, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. There's no further business in second reading. Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson, would you like to make a motion to vote on your resolution without engrossment?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to make a motion to move to the third reading file without engrossment.
All right, on that-
Resolution number 130-36 COR.
Thank you. On that motion, is there any objection to move Resolution 130-36 to third reading without and vote on it without engrossment? Any objections? Seeing no objection, motion carries. Senator Shelton, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to ask for a brief recess.
All right, we're going to take a recess also while they continue to engross Bill 55. 5-minute recess. Imina 36 na Legislature ng Guam is back in session. Senator Rangel, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to make a motion, notwithstanding the House rules, to extend session beyond 10 p.m.
On that motion, notwithstanding the House rules, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. We're now in the third reading file. Bill number 55-36 COR. Clerks, please read the title.
Bill number 55-36 COR, as substituted by the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing, and amended in the Committee of the Whole. Introduced by Committee on Rules by request of Imaga Hagen Guahan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam. An act making appropriations for the operations of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the Government of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30, 2022, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions.
Roll call.
Senator Atta. Senator Atta, aye. Senator Blas. Senator Blas, pass. Senator Brown. Senator Brown, nay. Senator Duenas. Senator Duenas, aye. Senator Moylan. Senator Moylan, aye. Vice Speaker Munoz Barnes.
Senator Nelson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to make a motion that we excuse members not present for today's voting.
On the motion to excuse members not present, is there any objection? Hearing no objection, motion carries.
Vice Speaker Munoz Barnes, excused. Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson, aye. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, aye. Senator Rangel. Senator Rangel, aye. Senator San Augustine. Senator San Augustine, aye. Senator Shelton. Senator Shelton, aye. Senator Tydegui. Senator Tydegui, nay. Senator Terlahi. Senator Terlahi, aye. Speaker Terlahi. Speaker Terlahi, aye. Senator Torres. Senator Torres, nay. Senator Blas. Senator Blas, aye.
Bill number 55-36 COR received 11 ayes, 3 nays, and 1 excused. Bill number 55-36 COR is duly passed by the body. Resolution number 130-36 COR. Please note we are voting on this without engrossment. Clerks, please read the title.
Resolution number 130-36 COR, introduced by Talina Cruz Nelson, Clint E. Rangel, Therese M. Terlahi, Mary Camacho Torres, Jose Pito Terlahi, Sabina Flores Perez, Amanda L. Shelton, Tina Munoz Barnes, Joe S. San Augustine. Relative to expressing the support of Imina 36 na Legislature ng Guam for the passage of H.R. 4406, the Supporting Medicaid in the U.S. Territories Act of 2021, introduced by the Honorable Representative Darren Soto Sablan and the Honorable Representative Gus Bilirakis, which seeks to amend Titles 11 and 19 of the Social Security Act to provide increased financial support to the territories under the Medicaid program, provide 5 years of Medicaid funding for Puerto Rico and 8 years of funding for other U.S. territories, and for other purposes.
Roll call.
Senator Ada. Senator Ada, aye. Senator Blas. Senator Blas, aye. Senator Brown. Senator Brown, aye. Senator Dueñas. Senator Dueñas, aye. Senator Moylan. Senator Moylan, aye. Vice Speaker Muñoz-Barnes. Vice Speaker Muñoz-Barnes excused. Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson, aye. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, aye. Senator Rangel. Senator Rangel, aye. Senator San Augustine. Senator San Augustine, aye. Senator Shelton. Senator Shelton, aye. Senator Titagui. Senator Titagui, aye. Senator Terlahi. Senator Terlahi, aye. Speaker Terlahi. Speaker Terlahi, aye. Senator Torres. Senator Torres, aye.
Resolution number 130-36 received 14 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 excused. Resolution number 130-36 is duly adopted by the body. We're now in the voting file. Notwithstanding the objections of Imagahagan Guahan, shall vetoed bill number 164-36 COR be overridden. Roll call.
Senator Ada. Senator Ada, nay. Senator Blas. Senator Blas, aye. Senator Brown. Senator Brown, aye. Senator Dueñas. Senator Dueñas, nay. Senator Moylan. Senator Moylan, nay. Vice Speaker Muñoz-Barnes. Vice Speaker Muñoz-Barnes excused. Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson, nay. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, aye. Senator Rangel. Senator Rangel, nay. Senator San Augustine. Senator San Augustine, aye. Senator Shelton. Senator Shelton, nay. Senator Titagui. Senator Titagui, aye. Senator Terlahi. Senator Terlahi, nay. Speaker Terlahi. Speaker Terlahi, aye. Senator Torres. Senator Torres, nay.
Vetoed bill number 164-36 COR failed override, receiving 6 aye votes and 8 nay votes and 1 excused. Notwithstanding the objections of Imagahagan Guahan, shall vetoed bill number 75-36 COR be overridden. Roll call.
Senator Ada. Senator Ada, aye. Senator Blas. Senator Blas, aye. Senator Brown. Senator Brown, aye. Senator Dueñas. Senator Dueñas, aye. Senator Moylan. Senator Moylan, aye. Vice Speaker Muñoz-Barnes. Vice Speaker Muñoz-Barnes excused. Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson, aye. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, pass. Senator Rangel. Senator Rangel, aye. Senator San Augustine. Senator San Augustine, aye. Senator Shelton. Senator Shelton, aye. Senator Titagui. Senator Titagui, aye. Senator Terlahi. Senator Terlahi, aye. Speaker Terlahi.
Pass.
Speaker Terlahi, pass. Senator Torres. Senator Torres, nay. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, pass. Speaker Terlahi.
Aye.
Speaker Terlahi, aye. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, aye.
Notwithstanding the veto of Imegahog Guahan, vetoed Bill number 75-36 COR was overridden by a vote of 13 members of this body. We've completed the third reading and the voting file. We're now on an extension of remarks. Brief extension of remarks. Is there anyone who'd like to be recognized? Senator San Augustine, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the time to address this body and our dear people of Guam. We have come to the pinnacle of our duty as legislators. The responsibility of passing a balanced or a conservative fiscal year budget has been accomplished. When the shutdowns happened, we were all left wondering, what next? It was, and for some, it is still very worrisome. We knew this continuing pandemic will affect our government revenues. For the last year, we have been monitoring the different anomalies that slowly revealed itself in our revenue collection from every sector. Federal funding in the CARES Act came as a beacon of hope for our families, our business, large and small, and for those who really needed a hand up. Months have passed and things began to look upward as restrictions were lifted, making social distancing, mask wearing, and hand washing or sanitizing part of our normal routine. Still, there were many unknowns. Madam Speaker, we saw our resilient people work to adjust to the executive orders that were implemented to keep our island safe. We saw our business start to reopen their doors. Our business community created innovative ways of conducting business. Things looked like they were moving in a positive direction. Unfortunately, things changed. When we received the governor's FY2022 budget request, we wondered what was to come. We rolled up our sleeves and conducted months of hearings with our agencies and departments to get a better grasp of their needs, keeping in mind the limited resources that we would be faced with in 2022. We knew that CARES money would only last for so long, and that would eventually bring challenges for our revenues. Recently, the ARP arrived, or several months, the ARP arrived to help our island recover from the raft. Madam Speaker, history was made tonight by tackling another of the most economically challenged budgets in our island history. I'm very pleased with the outcome of this bill, and I look forward to further assisting our island and departments and agencies with additional resources as they become available. Together, that's both sides of the house. We work to ensure our government will continue to provide the service and programs our people need. We provided adequate funding for every sector of our government to ensure our people are taken care of. We work towards building a Guam that remains steadfast in the adversities that we face, acknowledging the sacrifices that have been made to ensure we come out of this together. In closing, Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you and our colleagues for your active participation in this process as we work to address the needs of our community during these hard times. While we never always agree, one thing I can say, we agreed on what was focusing on the needs of our community. This was a true bipartisan bill. I commend all my colleagues, Democrat and Republicans, for their work and appreciate the dedication of each member for ensuring we met our goal to provide for our people. I especially wish to thank our Office of Finance and Budget and my office for their dedication to months of hearings and meetings, our clerk and her staff, all our office teams, our legal team, and our protocol and AV teams, and our Sergeant Arms for their support during these very long days and nights, working well before, during, and after all our hearings and session days up to this moment. Lastly, I want to take this time to thank our resilient people of Guam for their support and patience as we tackle this bill. Madam Speaker and colleagues, our work is never done, and our work will continue to tackle the many issues our people face. They are our family, our friends, our neighbors. Even when times are tough, we come together and help each other. History tells and shows us that our people are most resilient people in the world, and that is why I know we will continue to get through this together. We pray that this will soon pass and that better days are coming. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to address this body and our people. Sidzus Marcy.
Sidzus Marcy. Senator, is there any other senator who'd like to be recognized on brief extension of remarks? Senator Taitzagui, you are recognized.
Sidzus Marcy, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to register brief comments on the record concerning my decision to oppose Bill 55 as substituted, the Budget Act of Fiscal Year FY22. Madam Speaker, I recognize that Bill 55 includes several amendments that I authored, which dedicates excess revenue to tax refunds and to the rainy day fund for future emergencies, reduce the governor's transfer authority, and provide additional funding to compensate victims of government negligence. But it was not enough. Madam Speaker, I cannot ignore the fact that Bill 55 does little, if any, to control government spending, especially when hundreds, if not thousands, of our families are only days away from no longer receiving PUA benefits. These are families who, because the stability of our economy is in question due to rising infection rates and government restrictions, may not be able to secure employment or enough work hours to support themselves. When this substituted budget bill was provided to us, it did not take into consideration of the impact of the Delta variant. We are yet in another threat that may take months, if not a year, to find some kind of normalcy. Now's not the time to lower tax refunds or fund non-essential areas or lock up funding for a project that may not even begin for 3 years. What this bill did not do was take in consideration of the FY23 budget. By using general fund and special fund revenues, we left no room for this administration to use ARP funding for agencies that are clearly eligible for its use. Instead, we reduced provisions for tax refund payments and refused to change shall to may in order to allow the flexibility to use ARP funding. Madam Speaker, equally concerning to me in my opposition to Bill 55 is the decision made by policymakers to reduce the funding for tax refund, authorize pay raises and pay studies for additional government of Guam employees, and ignore the need to put additional funding into the rainy day fund to cover even more difficult days ahead. I believe that we as policymakers have failed to recognize the severity of the public health emergency we're all in and the devastating impact it will continue to have on our economy. This, Madam Speaker, is the why I opposed Bill 55. And in closing, Madam Speaker, I would like to thank as well the legislative staff, including Central Operations, and the Office of Finance and Budget for their work throughout this budget session. Sijus Masi, Madam Speaker.
Sijus Masi. Is there any other senator? Senator Brown, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I know the hour is getting late, but I certainly wanted the opportunity to relay also why I didn't support Bill 55. I think my two previous colleagues that spoke certainly had key points that I can agree with. But I think one of the most major issues, as I mentioned as we were going through Bill 55, I think we all recognize the challenges that we're in right now with this pandemic. I mean, a year and a half ago, we were hoping that maybe this is something that in a few months we would be able to get by and get back to some sense of normalcy. I don't think back then if we'd realized a year and a half later we'd still be in this situation, if not facing a bigger challenge of this virus. Would we have been prepared to deal with that reality? I think there are a lot of good points that are in Bill 55, but you know, some of the concerns that was raised by my previous colleagues speaking here, I also concur with, and I've mentioned that as we went through the budget process. I think recognizing obviously the impact that this virus has had on our economy, if we simply were to run on our own economic engine at this very moment, we would be in very dire circumstances. I think we're appreciative, no doubt, of the contribution the federal government has made, the substantial contribution. I mean, no time in the history of the government of Guam, as we've known it, have we ever had this much cash infusion into our economy by the federal government. And certainly, we're not complaining about it. It's been a very good thing because it's allowed us to get through these challenges. What I fear, Madam Speaker, is what's ahead, and that's the unknown. I don't know where we're going to be a few months from now, or 6 months from now, or a year from now. I don't know if the federal government's going to continue to be as generous as they've been with regards to providing funding. We do know that in a very short time, thousands of members of our community, primarily, obviously, from the private sector, are going to lose the federal funding that they've been receiving to help get them through this time. We have done very little in this budget to address or prepare for that. I mean, I very much, during times of uncertainty, want to take the conservative approach. And we didn't do that in this budget. I mean, granted, it's been about 15 years since I've worked in the legislature doing a budget. But we almost seem to operate as if the major challenges outside this hall don't exist, because we continue to add, we continue to increase, we continue to include studies for pay raises, as if all is well. And I don't feel that, Madam Speaker. I think as long as we're wearing these masks, as long as we see daily counts, I think today, it was up to over 206 members of our community that tested positive. And who we're hearing tested positive is all within reach of ourselves, if not ourselves getting it in our family, within people within our circle. And that's a concern, that's an obvious concern. I mean, the numbers, we're one short of 150 people that are directly attributed to have died from COVID. I guess they just added on an additional 2 that they believe happened last year, and have increased the numbers to, since yesterday, 145, 146, adding the 2, 147. Well, I guess I'm a number off, should be up to 149. But those are the realities, my colleagues, we should be dealing with. We should have put a little more effort to put money aside for that rainy day, and it has been raining the last few days. Because then what? Because we didn't prepare, because we reduced our options in what is within our realm of authority, we've limited ourselves. I very much felt we should have forced the governor to fund those areas in our government that were adversely affected as a result of this virus, and we've been over those areas. customs in particular. We have a substantial subsidy from the government of Guam in the general fund. Of course, granted, nobody wants our customs agents to not be paid. It's simply a question of where the source of that funding should come from. The Tourist Attraction Fund, these are all areas we could have forced that issue, but no, we want to act and put this budget together as if we don't want to be blamed. We don't want to be blamed that we didn't fund this. But we should have forced the governor's hand. Because as I mentioned time and time again, while we physically shouldn't be coming together, there are other ways of cooperation during this time of challenges here in our community that we must come together. And it hasn't happened. All we hear are continuous executive orders. All we hear is continued resistance to provide information, and we're just supposed to sit and wait, as the people of Guam are supposed to sit and wait, as the people of Guam have waited many, many, many months. Hopefully, tomorrow commences the process under which they're able to turn in their applications, and finally, because we're heading into the 9th month of this year, finally, hopefully, they're going to get their money from the RISE Act. Of course, that was past a term when I was not here, but the body decided that that's what they wanted to do, and it's taken all this time, all this hemming and hawing to finally get here. You would think that this involved more than simply a one-time payment. And yet we still have to wait. We still don't know how the governor intends to spend this federal money. I hope she's putting it aside, not just for a hospital. I mean, I think we all want to see a hospital, but it's not going to address the immediate issues that are facing our people right now. And that's where our priority should have been, to pursue the issues of what is within our authority, to be conservative, to set money aside for that rainy day, because I don't think that rainy day is too far off if things continue as they are. Before, we used to worry about a typhoon coming. In a matter of weeks, we got Guam back up. We know how to deal with typhoons now. Maybe every, of course, we haven't had a major, thank God, earthquake since the early 90s. But this, we don't know. We don't know a year from now if we're still going to be in this situation. I mean, even though the governor has proposed that she's going to provide funding for our employees in the private sector to have businesses subsidize each employee at $9.50 an hour, what jobs are they going to work at? Our visitor industry is still nowhere near starting off the ground, even though, granted, attempts have been made to bring tourists into, go through the whole vaccination process. And I credit the Guam Visitors Bureau and the efforts that they're doing to try to get visitors into the island. But most people are not going to want to travel right now, especially right now with what has happened in the last few weeks of how quickly these numbers have increased. So colleagues, please keep that in mind, because I would not want to see this issue come back to us, because it will. And then we have to cut and we have to reprioritize. And rather than preparing and being prepared, we're going to have to act under an emergency. And instead of making better decisions, we're going to have to make rash decisions. And that's not what we should be doing at a time when our people are expecting us to lead. And sometimes leading means making decisions that are not popular. But we cannot operate as if all is normal, because it is not. I do want to thank, because I know this is not an easy job to do the budget, and while I don't always agree with the approach, I do want to thank our colleague, Senator San Augustine, for his efforts, because I was there with him through most of these budget hearings, as some of my colleagues were. And I also want to thank Mr. Guerrero and the Office of Finance and Budget for their efforts. I mean, they have to endure quite a lot of questioning from us, sometimes not in the nicest way, to give us the information that we're asking for. But then at the same time, I think we under-recognize the effort that they put into the budget. Because even when they told us it was in the budget, we still wanted to put an amendment to make sure we could put our name on it to put it in the budget. So I want to thank them and also the staff of the legislature, because I know it's been very difficult, particularly since Friday night and over the weekend, and even for tonight when we leave here, the work that they still have to put in when we leave the session hall this evening. But my colleagues, please keep that in mind. We cannot act in this session hall and in these, what we do with the authorities that have been given to us for our people, and not really look at the bigger picture, and not make the tough decisions when we need to make them. It's easier to make the popular decisions of the moment. It's easy to promise pay raises and other things, but this is not the time. We have to be responsible. We have to ensure that what we're doing is affordable, that our people can afford what we're asking them. And our people don't just include one segment of this community. We have an obligation to the bigger picture. That's what's expected of us in the time that we're here. Because granted, that's what will be remembered. So I really want to relay that, colleagues, because it's not that I don't appreciate the efforts of what's been put forth in this budget, but I don't think we recognize and address the key issues that we need to address that are concurrent with the circumstances that we're currently experiencing in our community. With that, Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to comment on Bill 55.
Thank you, Senator. We are in brief extension of remarks. Is there any senator who would like to be recognized? Seeing none, are there any announcements? Senator Shelton?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to give some remarks. And as we come to the end of this budget season, I want to thank everyone here at the legislature, my office team, the chairman and the Office of Finance and Budget, the governor's fiscal team, our legal bureau, the clerk and her staff for their work these last few weeks, and most importantly, the people of Guam who have been following along and who have been pushing us forward. I also want to thank our colleagues for their participation and their perseverance over the last several weeks through the budget process. Their support on the many amendments I proffered this session to advance student financial aid for higher education, child protection, juvenile justice, park safety, period poverty relief for students, and vocational opportunities for individuals with disabilities. Seduas Masi colleagues. We know that this budget process is our primary responsibility. We appropriate here, we appropriate there, we increase here, we decrease there. Here in the legislature, they say, we have the power of the purse. And in all of this, I still wholeheartedly believe that what we include in the budget every year is a reflection of our priorities. And I voted for Bill 55 because it addressed many of these priorities. However, I am sad to say that we failed to include some critical needs of our Manamku as part of our priorities for fiscal year 2022. I remain disappointed that the amendments I proffered to give the Elder Justice Center a supplemental local appropriation failed. Despite the existing demand for more services, despite the plea from the Public Defender Service Corporation for more resources to expand their capacity, despite the growing wait list of seniors for legal aid. A previous speaker during the debate on the amendments said that the amendment was mind-blowing. I submit to this body and to the people of Guam that the only mind-blowing thing about this amendment to fund the Elder Justice Center is the number of people who voted against it. It's as simple as this, Madam Speaker. More of our Manamku are now in need of legal assistance. We had the opportunity, twice in fact, to provide more resources to meet their needs, and we failed. I hope that our successful amendment to appropriate the same resources to Public Health's Division of Senior Citizens will aid in carrying out services to our Manamku, such as elder respite care, senior citizen services programs, and some legal assistance through the Elder Justice Center. Madam Speaker, I remain steadfast in my pursuit to ensure that our Manamku, the most vulnerable among us, are able to avail of critical legal services in order for them to live happy and fulfilling lives. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to speak. And with the growing number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 on our island, I know we all send our condolences to the families who lost loved ones today. We pray for those in our hospitals and those at home recovering. And with the presence of the very highly contagious Delta variant, I continue to encourage everyone to get vaccinated, to keep each other safe, to remember to wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. Be safe, Guam. Siduos Masi.
Siduos Masi. We're still on brief extension of remarks. Is there anyone else who would like to be recognized? Brief extension of remarks. If not, then we are at announcements. Are there any announcements? If not, Majority Leader Senator Nelson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I make a motion that we adjourn today's session subject to the call of the Speaker.
On the motion to adjourn, subject to the call of the Speaker, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, we are hereby adjourned, subject to the call of the Speaker.